Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the Key on Millions.co. We also have merchandise on Millions.co. We are rolling out the merchandise right now. Merchandise. And here is everything from we have t-shirts, sweaters. We are going to be releasing shoes, hoodies, and we also have caps. So now let me get to the week that was week 15 in the NFL. First, starting off the NFL in week 15 was the Atlanta Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now the Buccaneers, they really didn't do themselves any favors because in the playoff picture right now, they are currently on the outside looking in. They are the number fourth. They are still in the playoff picture, but the Panthers are 7-7. They have the same exact record as the Buccaneers. Now, see, there was two plays. I'm gonna just fast forward right to the two plays of this game. Two plays of this game really helped the Buccaneers lose this and help the Falcons win. The third and 28, you have a 15% chance at converting that. So for the Buccaneers to let the Falcons not convert third and 28, but Todd Bowles, he had a chance instead of replaying first down, he could have let the game go to second down. But I don't know what went on in his head and stuff, but he let his defense go back to first down. If I'm the head coach, I'm trying to minimize however many downs that my opponent gets. So Todd Bowles, he pretty much messed up his team with his coaching decision. The defense, they messed up on the third and 28 and the fourth and 14. And if that is the reason why the Buccaneers do not make it to the playoffs, somebody is going to get fired after this season. Because there's no way where you were leading this game 98% of this game. If you were the Buccaneers, you should have lost it. It doesn't make any sense, and you still trying to make it to the playoffs now. All in all, the Buccaneers still might make the playoffs, but two of their final three games are against the Panthers, and the Panthers are no slouch. I can say that. They are no slouch. So the Buccaneers, they missed their chance to separate themselves from the Panthers. So now we get to a point where you see all of these statistics when it comes to the Falcons and Buccaneers. And if the Buccaneers, if they want to make the playoffs, it comes down to those two games versus the Panthers. Whoever wins those two games, whether it's the Panthers or Buccaneers, wins the NFC South. That's what it comes down to. The next game I'm going to cover is the Cleveland Browns and Chicago Bears. And there's so much more foolishness coming out of Cleveland because in the press conference, Kevin Stefanski said that he gave Shedeur Sanders the wrong playbook wristband. Now, I've never heard no foolishness like that, and I'm going to try and keep this PG as possible, but that is some bull jive, some BS, whatever you want to call it. You know I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to say it, so we get to you've never heard a head coach or an offensive coordinator say that. So there's some there's some underlying animosity when it comes to Shador. We already know that. But to go on live TV after a game where you really got blown out and say that, and for it not to be something deliberate, that doesn't sit right. It doesn't really make sense. It's like you have you have 6 days to come up with a game plan. The game plan for the offense in the NFL, realistically, an offense runs 50 to 65 plays. So you got Shador's playbook, 65 plays. What plays do he like? What plays he's not gonna like? And then you put it on a wristband, and the wristband, when it comes to their playbooks, it can only hold about 20 to 25 plays on a wristband. So for the Browns not to give Shador the right wristband, you already know how I feel about that. And I really wanna say the word that I'm thinking about, but I know if I say it, I'll get flagged. So I'm gonna back away from that. So the Browns, I'm gonna just get back to the Browns. The Browns, they need an entirely new coaching staff. I mean, Tommy Reese ain't doing nothing. The defensive coordinator ain't doing nothing. The special teams coordinator ain't doing nothing. Kevin Stefanski, he haven't done nothing in the past 3 years. And you got some young players all under the age of 27. So you got at least a 3 to 5 year window with these players. And what I'm hearing about Shador possibly leaving Cleveland, if I'm him, I'm going to stay in Cleveland. That's why I say the Browns, they will be a fool to give up Shador. This is why it's always good to weigh your options and stuff. But if I'm Shador, I want to build my own. See, that's what Shador is. He's all about building his own. I don't want to go to another team where they are a top dog and I'm just going to be sitting on the bench. When he first got drafted, he said that he didn't want to be sitting behind anybody backing them up. So this is the right type of situation for him to be in Cleveland. At the end of the day, are the Browns going to let Shador are the Browns going to let Shador play how he wants to play? Meaning, you don't have any margin for error, and you don't show him the plays that you want him to run, and then behind the curtain you have a whole different playbook. See, that's what the Browns been doing throughout the entirety of the season. They'll have him have 20 to 25 plays, and then behind that curtain, because the NFL, they always do something different behind that curtain, because y'all know Dion said the same thing. So there are always little undertones, whether it don't always have to be racial when it comes to the NFL. It could be verbal and all of these other stipulations on certain players in the NFL. So now we get to a point where you got a guy in Shador who's just by his last name, he gonna put some people in them seats. No matter what stadium he go in, no matter where the Browns play, Shador is gonna put some people in those seats. And now you see where the Browns, early in the season, they was losing money, but ever since they started Shador, they started that ticket revenue and that ticket money that they've been making, advertisements have been going up. And there's another thing. Shador, he hasn't done very many advertisements. We all know that the rookies, they always do commercial advertisement, whether it's for a beer company, chip company, a store, franchise store, or whatever. But Shador, he is so work-oriented and football-driven that he hasn't done any commercials this season. But you have his backup quarterback, Gabriel. He's done commercials here, commercials there. If I'm the Browns, y'all already know how I feel about the Browns. Organizationally, they need to have a structure in place. Now, Jimmy Haslam, he's the owner, and he's been trying to have structure with this franchise. He's been looking for structure for the last 10 years. Everybody thought that he had the type of organization structure when the Browns made the playoffs just a few years back, but that was obviously just by luck. And now we get to a point where the Bears, let me tell y'all something about the Bears. The Bears, can they make it to the playoffs? Yes, they can. The Bears are second in the NFL, right? Well, excuse me, not in the NFL, but in the NFC playoff picture. And then the Packers. See, the Bears and Packers, they have been fluctuating over the past 3 weeks. If the Bears win, they stay up. If the Packers win, the Bears come down. So it's been like that for the past few weeks. So now we get to the next game, because I've pretty much dissected the Browns and Bears. We get to the Ravens and the Bengals. I'm not going to focus too much on the Bengals because we knew the Bengals season was over with once Joe Burrow went down. Lamar Jackson, he had a relatively, slow day. 8 of 12, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. And here's Derrick Henry. He had 11 carries for 100 yards. This was pretty much, a game that I would say when it came to the third quarter, I really was just keeping tabs on this game. I really didn't watch it till its entirety because I knew that the Bengals, they weren't going to keep up with the Ravens. And for them to have all of this offensive talent and not be able to not even able to get 3 points, it's bad. It really is. It is bad. And the Ravens, they did what they were supposed to do. They kept themselves afloat. They are 7-7 right now, and they have a fighting chance. The next game I'm going to cover is the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know that Patrick Mahomes went down with an ACL tear. But there's something that is coincidental in this case. Because, credit, Tom Brady had the same exact injury, America, so just hear me out. Just stay with me. In Tom Brady's first 8 seasons with the Patriots, he won 3 Super Bowls, was trying to go for a 4th Super Bowl. And then in 2008, at the start of the 2008 season, his torn ACL, his leg gets injured. And now we get to a point where Patrick Mahomes, he was starting to he's already won 3 Super Bowls. This season, it was already going to be a tough season anyway. And then he gets injured on Sunday. Torn ACL, the same leg that Tom Brady tore his ACL, that's the same exact leg. Now we get to a point where 2008, the next championship Tom Brady got was 2014. Right now it's 2005. The next championship Patrick Mahomes get, if we want to keep it at a 6-year window, should be 2031. But hey, it may come sooner than that. But one thing about it is the top dog in the NFL, the Chiefs, they are not making it to the playoffs. And for the first time since 1998, we are going to be looking at a playoff scenario without Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Patrick Mahomes. America, anybody, and I do mean anybody, can make it to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara. There is no clear-cut favorite this season because you have over 20 teams still eligible to make the playoffs. And we have never had a season like that ever before. By the time the last season that we had like this was 15 years ago, and at that point it was only 16 teams that had a chance at making the playoffs. So for it to be 20 plus teams to have a chance to still make the playoffs, the most in NFL history to this stage of the season. We've never had this going into week 16 having over 15 teams have a chance at making the playoffs. So now we get back to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, when it comes to the draft, you don't have to look for a quarterback. You got Patrick Mahomes. What the Chiefs have to do as far as looking to improve their team, they need running backs. They need wide receivers because the wide receivers that they have, they're okay. But if you want to be a dynamic offense like you were in the past, you have to get younger talent at the wide receiver position. And as far as tight ends for the Chiefs, we don't know whether Travis Kelce is going to come back. If he doesn't come back, Travis Kelce had a good career. He won 3 Super Bowls, one of the best tight ends in NFL history. He could just ride off into the sunset. But if he comes back, his role is going to be neutralized. And I believe if he comes back, he is only going to be a third down tight end. I believe so. So now we get to the point where the Chargers are 10-4. And we all know that the Chargers are going to Chargers. So I really don't have much hope in the Chargers because if the playoffs were to start today, the Chargers would be facing the Steelers. And the way that the Steelers played last night, do you really think that the Steelers are going to let the Chargers come into a cold weather climate and win? Like I said, historically, the Chargers, they have a bad record when it comes to the cold. Also, the team that the Steelers were playing last night has a bad all-time record in the cold. So I'm going to get into Monday Night Football a little bit later on, but now I am going to get to the next game on the list, which was the Commanders and Giants. I'm not going to spend much time on that. Commanders won this game. We all know that both of these teams are bad. So let's go on to the next game. Next game, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Raiders versus Eagles. Eagles won 31-0. The next game I'm going to cover, Jets versus Jaguars. I am not going to spend much time on that, but I will say that Trevor Lawrence had a career high, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He was not that interception throwing machine like I said he was early in the season. But one thing I can say about the Jaguars is they didn't play down to their competition. In other years with other coaches, we would always see them play down to their competition, having a 4 or 5 game winning streak. Then they get to a team like the Jets, who's not playing for anything, and yet you would have that lower ranked team beat the Jaguars. But the Jaguars offense, that was about as best as they looked all season on Sunday versus the Jets. Now, the Jaguars, they are on their way to the Mile High City playing the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos, they won 11 straight games. The Jaguars have won 6 straight games. Now, if the Jacksonville Jaguars win out and the Patriots lose one game and the Broncos lose one game, y'all already know where I'm going with this. The Jaguars will have home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. Now, who would have said that at the start of the season? Me, I was just expecting the Jaguars to make the playoffs, but they got a chance at home field advantage. Why not? I would be at every home field advantage at every game that the Jaguars have in the playoffs. Now, let's see. When it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars as a whole, we see where the defense is good. Trevor Lawrence, Jaguars need to run the ball a little bit more, but this is the first time in Trevor Lawrence's career where he's went 6 games without throwing an interception. Can somebody in the audience give Trevor Lawrence a hand clap? Better yet, I'm going to give a hand clap. Because we've never seen Trevor Lawrence play like this. We've never seen that. When we come back to the Jaguars, we all know that the Jaguars, they didn't play anybody, of significance. They didn't. But now we get to the next game on this list, and I'm not really going to take too much time on the Cardinals and Texans. Texans dominated, and that's all there was to it. The next game I'm going to cover is the Green Bay Packers and the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos haven't lost a game at home all year. I do know what it is. It is something about the altitude up there in Colorado that teams, they just don't like to play in. They just don't. And you see where Broncos, every home game, they have put up at least 25 points in every home game. The Broncos, they have a ball hog in secondary. And the defense, they average 7 sacks a game. When you have a defense that averages 7 sacks a game and a defense that averages third down defense is the best defense in football when it comes to the Broncos. The Packers, on the other hand, at the start of the season, we had the Packers going to the playoffs. We had the Packers even projected to host the NFC Championship game. Now we get to a point where they are 9-4, and they have a game between the Chicago Bears. That is whoever wins that game gets sole possession of first place in the NFC North. And also, are the Packers really a team that we really should look out for? Because we know that Micah Parsons is injured and we know what he brings to the table. But when it comes to that Packers offense, the Packers offense, they were stuck on skid row in this game. Because the last drive that they had, it was 4-down territory. And first play, incompletion. Second play, no gain. Third play, no gain. And then you get to the fourth play of that drive, 4th down and 10, and you don't even get some yards on those 4 plays. So the Packers offense at times they come up short. You cannot have that if you are in the playoffs when it comes to the Packers. If you are trying to go deep into the playoffs, you cannot play that way versus the Eagles, versus the Rams. You cannot play that way against upper echelon competition. The next game I am going to cover is the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Los Angeles Rams are the top team in the NFC right now. Second is the Bears. Third is the Eagles. Now, let me talk about the Rams for a minute here. The Rams' 3 losses are against teams that are all contending for the playoffs: the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Panthers. And then we get to the offense. Offensively, Matthew Stafford, 24 of 38, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Los Angeles, rushing attack, 159 yards. Detroit only had 70 yards rushing. Detroit, their season is hanging by a thread. The Panthers, their season is hanging by a thread. These are the only 3 teams in the NFC that have a chance, that still have a puncher's chance. But y'all already know how I feel about my Cowboys. I'm going to tell y'all something. When I get to the Cowboys tape, it is going to be nothing but a realization there. But as far as the Lions and Rams coming into the season, they were the odds-on favorite to host the NFC Championship game. More than likely, they are going to be the number 1 seed in the playoffs in the NFC. And the Detroit Lions, those early season losses are starting to hurt them all of a sudden. The next game I am going to cover, I'm not going to take too much time on this game, but the Saints upset the Panthers. We don't really know what the Panthers are. They have a signature win versus the Rams. They have a signature win versus top-notch teams. And then when you are projected to win versus the lower tier or middle-ranked teams, you come out and you lose. Panthers and the Buccaneers are in the same boat. They are spitting images of each other, and that's the reason why they have the same exact record. Same exact record. The next game I'm going to cover, pretty much a blowout. Tennessee Titans versus San Francisco 49ers. 49ers did what they were supposed to do. I'm not going to take anything away from the 49ers dominating this game versus the Tennessee Titans. The Indianapolis Colts and Seattle Seahawks. This game stuck out to me particularly because the Seahawks did not score a touchdown, let alone they still won this game. The Colts, they scored 1 touchdown and still lost this game. Phillip Rivers, he had an okay day. 18 of 27, 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sam Darnold, 22 of 36, 271 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. One thing about this game, I knew that it was going to be a defensive game because the Colts, they have a good defense. Seattle, they have a good defense. It's just something about Seattle at home. Over the past couple of years, they haven't won their home games like to the degree where they won their home games in the past. And now we get to a team where the Seattle Seahawks, they are number 5 right now in the NFC playoff bracket. They have the same exact record as the Rams, who are also 11-3. Now, I believe that the remaining schedule for the Seahawks, they still have the Rams on their schedule. They have the Rams on Thursday. So, whoever wins Thursday night goes on to win the NFC West. I'm going to say that again. Whoever wins Thursday night out of the Rams and Seahawks goes on to win the NFC West. Because I believe that that the 49ers, they may be the second or possibly third best team in the NFC West, because the Rams, at the start of the season, the Rams, they were undefeated. And then they lost to Philadelphia. And this was early on in the season. And now we get to a point where you have Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's always averaging over 100 yards. But when the Seahawks get to the playoffs, what Sam Darnold are we going to see, America? That is the $1 million question. What Sam Darnold are we going to see? Are we going to see the Sam Darnold that crumbles under pressure like a cookie? Or are we going to see Sam Darnold rise to the occasion and get the Seahawks to the next round in the playoffs? Now here's Sunday Night Football. Sunday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings come into Dallas and beat the Cowboys. I was for the last 36 hours, I had been thinking about what I was going to say about the Cowboys. And only thing that I can say is, and I really want somebody to clip this, Sunday night's loss, it was a relief loss. It was a relief loss for every Cowboys fan in America and in the world. Because defensively, we cannot take any more of Matt Eberflus. I'm going to say that again. When it comes to Matt Eberflus, Jerry, you got to find another defensive coordinator. You got to find another defensive coordinator. And another thing that I can say about the Dallas Cowboys, when it comes to this coaching staff, now, the only person that I see that shows enthusiasm on the sideline is Brian Schottenheimer. Now, credit to Brian Schottenheimer. He has the best. The Cowboys have either the best offense or the second best offense in the NFL. Congratulations to Brian Schottenheimer. In a season where I thought Jerry Jones didn't know what he was doing with Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, he has his job at least for next season. But when we get to the defensive coordinator, Matt Eberflus, he's not a good defensive coordinator. And then let me get to the offense. Offensively, the Cowboys, consistently this season, they've cracked over 100 yards in the run game. But the Cowboys, as far as togetherness and having cohesiveness, the team doesn't have bravado. It doesn't. It's like when the Cowboys have the lead, everything is good. Everybody on the sideline is shucking and jiving. But when adversity strikes and the Cowboys are down by a couple of scores, with the exception of the Eagles game And the Chiefs game, all throughout the entirety of the season, is pretty much the Cowboys. They just fold. They just sit on the sideline and just let everything happen. They just let the opponent go up and down the field. J.J. McCarthy, earlier this season, we didn't think that J.J. McCarthy remotely had the qualities, the capabilities, and the efficiencies of being an NFL quarterback. And then here comes my Dallas Cowboys. And we let him go off and have a day that nobody expected. And now we get to a point where Dallas Cowboys playoff chances are done. It's not even worth it. It's not even worth it mention the 1% chance that they have. Because I know one of these next 3 games they are going to lose. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys win the final 3 games, and at the end of the season, we are talking about if they would have made changes earlier on in the season, they possibly would have had a chance at making the playoffs. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. The losses that hurt the Cowboys in this season, I'm going to go down a list. Let's look back at their schedule. The losses that hurt them early in the season was Philadelphia. I'm going to just go ahead and say that it's the first game of the season. You had a chance at winning that game. So, Philadelphia, Chicago, Carolina, Arizona, Denver. But the one loss that really hurt the most, it's about 3 losses that really hurt the most for the Cowboys this season, was the Chicago Bears, Carolina Panthers. That really hurt them. It really hurt. And the Arizona Cardinals. And I go back to earlier on in the season, the first game, the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Cowboys would have won 4 of those games, would have won all 4 of those games because they had the chance at winning all 4. We are obviously talking about them holding maybe the 4th or 5th seed in the playoff picture right now. But Jerry, you got some decisions to make on whether to keep this team intact or get some new players. And I want to see some new players that got some drive. Because some of these players that are on the Cowboys defense, they don't have no drive. They don't have no passion. And this is what Michael Irvin was talking about last night in his show. It's just one thing it's just something. In order to wear the star, the Cowboy star, you got to play like a star. No matter what string, no matter whether you are a starter, second string, third string, fourth string, or on the practice squad, you have got to play like a star. You got to want it. You got to be championship driven. You got to have a drive of saying that I am not going to let a team come in my house and do whatever they want to do and be comfortable, because that is what has happened this season. You had Green Bay, even though they tied with Green Bay. You had Green Bay come to Dallas. They got comfortable. You had, all of the games that they've lost. You had that team come and play against the Cowboys and be comfortable. It seemed like everybody, and this has been over the past 15 years, everybody that plays the Cowboys, they always have their best. That's why coming into the season, I always say, I hope that the Cowboys defense will neutralize these players and hopefully nobody shows out against the Cowboys. I wish I had confidence because over the past 15 years, you've had wide receivers. And I can base this back to Victor Cruz and all of those guys that play the Cowboys and just show out on the Cowboys, having 175 to 200 yards. You had Odell Beckham Jr. when he was with the Giants. He had over 200 yards one game playing against the Cowboys. And then we get to present day. You got A.J. Brown having over 100 yards versus the Cowboys. Devontae Smith. Then you have all of these other wide receivers in the NFC and in the AFC. And it doesn't matter what team. The Cowboys defense hasn't been able to stop anything all season. So, it was a relief loss. The Dallas Cowboys, they need a defensive coordinator badly. Special teams coordinator. The Cowboys need a special teams coordinator badly. Also, penalties. Another season full of penalties, self-inflicted wounds. And this is one of the reasons why the Cowboys are always at home come January. Now, January happens to be the month that I was born. So to not see my Cowboys play in the month that I was born, it hurts me. It really does. And it hurts all Cowboys fans to not see the Cowboys play deep into January. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've seen the Cowboys play football in January. And the Cowboys, they haven't won a meaningful game in December. And dare I say, I would say about 3 or 4 years. Because even the season where they made it to the playoffs in 2023, when they made it to the playoffs, their schedule in the regular season in December, they didn't play nobody that was meaningful. Those games weren't meaningful. So that's why I say it's been a while since the Cowboys have won a meaningful game in December. And as far as for the future for the Cowboys, I'm just going to say this. In a matter of 33 days, I will be turning 25. And the closest that I've ever seen the Cowboys get to an NFC championship game was the divisional round. And that has been multiple times over the past 25 years that I've seen them. Well, excuse me. For me, 25 years, but it's been 31. So over the past 31 years, the Cowboys have gotten to the NFC divisional round multiple times, but haven't hosted a NFC championship game. What do we have to do? What do we have to do? Jerry, what do I have to do? I'm putting in my verbal application to the Cowboys organization. When it comes to team building, I am one of the best at it. I mean, I have a promotion team. We do social media on a day in and day out basis. Mr. Jones, Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones, to the Jones family, can I please come and help y'all out when it comes to building a championship team? GM, like I said, I've been saying it over the past couple of years. Give me a nice good contract, 6 years, $300 million. Let's say that. Let's say 6 years, $300 million, $15 million each season. Because that is what general managers are making nowadays in the NFL, $15 million a year. So I just don't want to see. For the Cowboy fans, for the younger Cowboy fans, we want to see our team on the big stage. You know how much money that would bring if the Cowboys were in a Super Bowl? Let me tell y'all something. I would be at that Super Bowl. I would have field passes, backstage passes to all the festivities in that Super Bowl. We need the Cowboys to make the Super Bowl. And I know people keep on laughing and talking about the Cowboys Super Bowl. They're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. Eventually, the Cowboys are going to make it to the Super Bowl. We don't know when. And Jerry Jones, we know that the clock is ticking. Jerry, he is 85. He doesn't. One thing about Jerry, I can say this. Jerry cares about one thing, and that's making money. Now, me, I care about making money the same exact way. One thing this season, I know that he was focused on oil and gas. And let me tell you, I am a oil and gas investor myself, so I understand what Jerry Jones was talking about. But as far as the Cowboys, this season was pretty much devastation. And Micah Parsons, he could have helped out in in 7. He could have helped out in 4 of the games, 4 of the 7 games that the Cowboys lost. He could have even helped out the Cowboys in the Packers game. But at the start of the season, Jerry did the most uncharacteristic thing that you can do when it comes to giving up your best defensive player. And that's all I got to say about my Cowboys. That's all I got to say. The final game of week 15 was last night. The Miami Dolphins and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Miami, cold weather climate, they already was out of the playoffs. And now we already know that they have been officially eliminated from the playoffs. Officially. One thing I can say about the Dolphins, they were in a bad aquarium this season. They were in a bad aquarium because right after the first game, you have team-only meetings. And then you get to a point in the middle of the season or possibly 3/4 of the season where you win 4 straight games, and then we go to last night. Last night, the Dolphins, they were not able, and I do mean not able to, move the ball up and down the field. They weren't. Because you see, third down efficiency for the Dolphins, 2 of 8. Fourth down efficiency for the Dolphins, 1 of 1. Steelers, 4 of 13 on third down. Fourth down efficiency, 3 of 3 on fourth down. Now, like I said, I knew the Steelers were going to win this game because the Dolphins, I said the Dolphins, if you get them in a cold weather climate, they are going to lose more times than not. Historically, the Dolphins have only won 31% of their games that are in cold weather climates. Now the Dolphins, for the Dolphins to get to the Super Bowl, they are going to have to face either teams that are either teams that are in warm weather climates or teams that have domes. That's what I say. Because cold weather climates, it's not it. So either they are going to have to face California, the Chargers, or the Texans, or have home field advantage. Because going in Cincinnati, going in Pittsburgh, going into Cleveland, and going up to New York, facing the New York Jets, that is not going to go well for them. Now, the Dolphins, they did win versus New York, but we all know that the New York Jets really haven't been a team of much significance this season. And with that, those are my reactions to Week 15 of the 2025 NFL season. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Key City Sports on Instagram. And the Key on Millions.co. We also have live merchandise on Millions.co. We have hoodies, t-shirts, sweaters, and we are going to have more t-shirts available on Millions.co at a later date. So now, one last thing. I am going to give everybody the current AFC and NFC playoff picture after Week 15. Here is the Broncos and the Rams atop the AFC and NFC. And here are the teams that are in the hunt for the playoffs. And remember, everybody, one last thing. The key is always on time.